Galaga is the co-founder and CEO of Aligned. Aligned is a deal room software, so SaaS product. You guys recently raised your Series A. I don't think you guys disclose your revenue or ARR. LinkedIn says you have 50 employees. I don't know if that's directionally accurate. You started this company in 2022. You sell to AEs, enterprise AEs, and sales leaders, have some pretty prestigious logos on your website: HubSpot, Salesforce, Intel, Chili Piper, Deal. And you've obviously been growing very fast on LinkedIn. You're now at over 74,000 followers, so we'll dive into all of that. Anything that should be added to that intro or any information you want to correct here, Gal?
No, that's perfect. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So you grew from basically 0 followers. I'm sure you had some amount of followers and connections maybe a year and a half ago to now 74,000 followers. Basically a year later, I think you're growing by about 5,000, 6,000 followers per month, roughly, on average. Is there any other numbers you can share here in terms of impressions? I don't know, revenue pipeline you're driving from this, anything that you can attribute to your LinkedIn activity that you can share?
Yeah, I can give kind of an overall overview. I think I started experimenting, I would say, in mid towards end of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So once a week or once every few weeks, just experimenting. And that's where we started as a company, kind of going into more the social game, LinkedIn game. We entered that game through influencers first. And then I started really, it was a lot of experimentation mode, trying to find my voice. I don't think like a lot happened during that time. We did get some mentions, some of our demo requests and some here and there to sales teams, but it was really light. But then things really kicked off in April 2024, so around 14 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I started driving more consistency. That's where I started 3 times per week, found my voice, found my strategy, got very clear. And I think since then, I haven't changed things much. Like it's been, just maybe a little bit, maybe like hooks or even bulkier, like experimenting with some things, but overall, it's same concept, same narrative, same strategy, some refinements over there, here and there. And I think right now we're at, like I'm saying, for my profile, around 600,000 or 500,000 to 1 million impressions per week. All our growth is around 20,000. If I take like a multiple quarter averages, it's around 20,000. I just checked per quarter.
Wow.
And average engagement per post is 700, 800, something like that. If this thing Clio should actually it's 1,100 average post engagement.
Crazy.
Took time to load. So 1,100. So post engagement basically takes the comments as well, right? So this year post engagement 1,100, total posts 67, and then probably more than 100 posts that did around 1,000 or 100,000 impressions that you could categorize as really viral.
Yeah.
What else?
Do you have any rough estimate on like pipeline or something like that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been one of the most challenging things at the beginning because it's really hard to tie, right? And it also I didn't do the things that I'm doing right now, which is including a lot of CTAs, really soft kind of CTA, inviting people to actually sign up, which means that if you're not doing all of that, the only way for you to really attribute things, because it's like nothing is getting measured, right? Tracked, is by self-reported attribution.
Mm-hmm.
I think we only realized the self-reported attribution method is what would solve our problem around a year ago. And that's where I started doubling down because then we saw that it was around 40%. Now it's around 60, 65% of our leads, which are either people signing up to the freemium version of the product or demo requests, are coming from LinkedIn in general. The rest is product virality and then a little bit of articles, search. And then I know when I post and really go strong on having a CTA and the post does well, then it could get a single post can drive hundreds of leads.
Yeah.
Top post drove around 400 or 500 leads. I don't remember. Which is people signing up, people requesting demos.
Yep.
But on a weekly basis, I'll guess I'll bring around 100, around 50.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit more. And sorry, that's what we can track, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
long-term ripple effect, and that's only leads, by the way. So if I would go and write a business case for this, it goes far deeper, but I realize I'm talking a lot. So
no, I love it. Like we'll dive into, like, I want to talk about the CTAs and the I call them direct response posts. What is that business case? I mean, I think that's a good kind of point to start. What is that business case?
yeah, so I think like everyone, right? You start because you want to drive demand, you want to generate leads, you want to generate awareness for the company, and it's really mostly about the top of the funnel. That's how people typically look at it. I think just over time we've gathered so many examples of where it just and I posted about this, and that became like a really great post about the post did very well about LinkedIn, and it basically said like LinkedIn is really not a channel, right? It's not a channel for you for leads. It's a growth engine for your entire business. And the CEO of LinkedIn reposted that post. He's did around 1,500 likes, just his repost. And earlier this week, okay, funny coincidence. Earlier this week, I get multiple people sending me WhatsApp screenshots of the VP marketing at LinkedIn talking at an event and opening a LinkedIn big event with my photo, my quote, and that.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's pretty epic.
So how do you measure? So actually, that's really the bottom line of what's the business case. How do you measure the impact of something like that? But now, if I will try to measure, and if we'll try to kind of go through this, I can say that by far we're getting the best possible talent. We're really maximizing. We're punching above our weight, right? We're getting much higher. We're getting a lot of CVs. So hiring, retention, and expansion for sure. Like one of our AEs recently closed a deal that instead of discounting, they asked if I could join their onboarding and provide actual direct training on business cases. Okay, that was one of the concessions. So both
interesting
in deals, yeah, you can multi-thread more easily. I can reach out to people because there's trust being built. So there's a lot of that, but also in retention and expansion. But I get invited like 2 or 3 times per week to podcasts, webinars, speaking opportunities. If I go to a physical event, it's just like the event is much more effective. Like a lot of people recognize me. We got inbound investments. We got inbound strategic opportunities, like competitors that are in a different space, much bigger, wanting to partner. Like a lot of things like that. And I think it's also a way, like a much sharper at understanding our narrative, our messaging, refining it all the time. It's like you're speaking with the audience all the time, right? Right now, we're going much deeper, like everyone, into AI, into agents. And so I'm going to test heavily. And I started already, but I'm going to test more and more the narratives and basically talk, right, with our audience and see how people respond, what they say in the comments, how the different messages work. And based on that, we're going to build our narrative.
So I'll summarize a couple things. One, obviously, your metrics are insane. You mentioned something like 20K followers per quarter. That's roughly 7K per month. 2 to 4 million impressions per month. 65% of leads for Align come through LinkedIn. You use it for hiring, retention, expansion. You get invited to events, inbound investment opportunities, partnership opportunities, improving your messaging. How would you list your inputs? So like, an SDR might say my inputs are I do 100 cold calls a day. I follow up with everyone in my CRM. At the end of the day, I clean up my CRM. And I also spend an hour training and learning and new things. What are your, let's say, weekly inputs?
Yeah, it's really hard to measure because sometimes it's just like things that you think about, right, where you're exercised, during exercise and everything. But like basically, I'll take Sundays to write from early. I wake up very early and I'll write for like 6 hours, I think, like probably from 6 a.m. to noon, or a little bit, or maybe 1 p.m., something like that. And then I'll write the 3 posts.
Yep.
Try to write them in a way that they're not completed.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't like completing the post on the first shot, because then when you walk away and you look at it again, suddenly you see it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I'll walk away, and then the day that I post, also early in the morning, this is where, like, for me, it's like the easiest. No kids screaming at home, and and everything else, and no emails and Slacks every second. So that's where I'll invest more time and refine things. And it's typically the hook. I think the hook takes more time than the post, like sometimes 3 times more than the entire post.
And so you might spend what, another half an hour maybe on the day of posting?
Another hour, or
Wow.
even more. And then the actual posting time, then I comment a little bit on other people. That's like my, okay,
Before or after?
Before and after a little bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the week I try not to, because then it's just everywhere. You're like all the time on LinkedIn. It's just, it pulls you in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will read, but then what I do, on the day that I post, I'll go to my last few posts.
Yep.
I'll try to comment on a few things from the last few posts. Read, if I can, all of the comments, and like them, and then that's how because if throughout the day, every time you open your phone, you have more comments and you try to comment, it's just impossible.
Yep. And is that like, what, 15 minutes before you post and then 15 minutes after, or is it longer, or?
Yeah. Look, it's just really not consistent.
Yeah.
You have to blend this into your life and not build your life around it too much, right? Especially if you're an executive founder, like, everyone's busy, right?
Yeah. And then do you do any like messaging, follow-up, connecting with people, any of that activity, or have someone do that?
No, I'm blocked on the 30,000 connection limit. I have a VA that basically, we would every time go and think about, okay, let's maybe take these roles and disconnect, and then I'll need to kind of, like, maybe developers, people that are not in my target audience. It still means that I'm following them and they're following me.
Yep.
Right, but I'll remove a connection in order to approve new connections. So I'll every time make sure that I have maybe around 100 connection requests available, and I'll try to approve, the ones that I know that are really highly relevant right now, and maybe we need to message, or they want to message me, if it's in our target audience.
Yep. So if I would recap that, on Sunday, you block off 6 to 7 hours in the morning. You write 3 posts in those 6 to 7 hours, but they're not completed. And then on the 3 days where you post, whatever, Monday, Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, you will spend another half an hour or hour refining that post, rewriting the hook, making some changes to it. And then you will, before you post, do some engaging, reply to comments that you got on previous posts, maybe engage on other people's content, go through your notifications, publish, and then maybe do another, whatever, 15 minutes of engaging with other stuff. And then you kind of leave, and then you bucket that into those 3 days. And then throughout the week, you might read some stuff, but you're not, constantly checking notifications and replying and all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing to highlight, and I've talked about that before, is that obviously you spend a lot of time per LinkedIn post. Like, that's, for people who did the math, that's 2 to 3, sometimes even more hours per LinkedIn post, which is way more than most people do. When you sit down on Sunday, like, do you already know what you want to write about? Do you like write down 10 things and then you narrow it down to 3? Like, because obviously there's a big lever in terms of what do you actually talk about. And I'm sure there's a million different things that you could be talking about as a CEO, doing all kinds of things. So like, how do you decide to narrow down on those are the 3?
Yeah. So I will always have a list, because sometimes, so first of all, I have right now a list of probably more than 100 hooks that are basically half-baked ideas. Like, if I want to write about something, I'll write the hook real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's what inspires me. I'll think about a hook, and that's a topic to write about. Like something like this conversation, right, can drive up something, and I'll write it up real quick. I noticed right now we had all hands. I finished the all hands. I had something came up. I finished the all hands, and I wrote something, and I just write. I just write the hook, like it's a
Yep.
half hook, and that's a placeholder. And then at some point during the week, I'll go and I'll look at next week, and I'll think about and prioritize it. Just look at all of the topics, and get a feel for what I want to write, want to write about.
And this is probably a subconscious process at this point, but there is some prioritization framework that you go through when you review those 100 hooks now to decide what are the 3. And you've probably improved your intuition about this is probably going to do well, where this one, this is probably not quite there. Like, do you think you can articulate some of those patterns that you're looking for of what will probably do well?
Yeah. Look, if I have something there as a placeholder that I know just will not do well, right? I'll maybe leave it for a while until I get inspired again around the topic. But if not, like I'll delete it. It shouldn't be there. Right? Good thing, good ideas should be there. And I would actually prioritize more based on what I feel like I want to write about, right? Because any other thing, like you want to really feel, hey, wow, I really want to write about this, right? You're in the mood, you're like in the mindset of what you want to say. You have it kind of fully, like your point of view is really fully fleshed out right now in your mind. You want to write about it. So it's really, that's maybe one of the key things in the prioritization. Sometimes I'll have ideas that I know I need to go and do some research around. Okay, just back from a Gartner chief sales officer at Sales Leader event, and that's one that I just had to do on time. But it also took a lot of research. I had to take a lot of notes that I wrote down, a lot of presentations that I received from them. I actually threw all the presentations into ChatGPT and told it, hey, did I miss any insight? Like I uploaded presentations that they allowed you to download, and then it gave me maybe another bullet point that I missed. So that's like a research heavy, like that's a lot of work to write a post like that. So for something like that, I won't, like it's easy, harder for me to prioritize, but here I just had to.
Yeah.
So it's really a lot based on that. But in terms of how do I choose which topic would, like all of these topics could work best. Like we can talk about how, what makes a great hook, but
what does make a great hook?
Yeah. So I think, like, first of all, that's the art, right? It's all about the hook. So first of all, it took me time to understand that you need to speak to your persona. Okay, the hook needs to be relevant, even to what you have written under your name. So I have Gal Aga, and then CEO, co-founder of Align, and there's something there that mentions sales. So like someone sees the hook, who wrote it? Okay, like things that immediately connect, right?
All right. So what you meant previously, people on their feed, obviously, when people are scrolling their feed, they see kind of your name, and then they see this little tagline, which is truncated. I think a lot of people don't pay attention to what they can include here before it gets, truncated. And so you have this showing.
Yeah. So I can't seem to find like the previous example. So when I started writing this, I think I wrote, no, actually, I wanted to show the example from yesterday. Maybe let's go to the one yesterday.
I can get it.
That's a good one for a point that I'm trying to make.
This one, if an enterprise AE tells me?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So when I started writing this, I wrote enterprise AEs who say, I closed the 200K deal scare me most. Okay. Now, or I think it was even worse. Like, and what I'm trying to say is, like, I can't say that as a CEO. It's a bit too harsh. Okay, like I don't want to be criticizing my ICP, or not only an ICP. I don't want to be criticizing someone that's not like, hey, I can criticize CEOs, leadership, founders, board. I don't want to criticize someone that's doing the day-to-day work as an IC. I think that's too harsh for me as a voice, right? I need to think about your voice, and a lot of people will go and just try to do the things that are viral that work on LinkedIn, or try to get hooks from ChatGPT, and it just won't connect. So that's why, like, taking it to the direction of, if an enterprise AE comes and tells me, because it has a story behind it, right? Like, hey, you can see my name, CEO at Align. If an enterprise AE tells me I closed 200K deal, that scares me more than hearing we lost it. Like, now that's interesting. That's a CEO perspective and a situation that people can relate to and recognize. Okay, now this post is like, didn't do very well. It didn't go super viral. That's like a minimum, basically. So I think it's probably too long, but I think there are two things. Okay, one is you either have a number, okay, something that is interesting, that is impressive. This is not the case here. I'm using a number in another way, but like, a lot of people, try to just tell, okay, or just tell a story, and that's great, but you have to say something that's just so unique, okay, just would stop the scroll. It's so unique. It's so I don't like to be polarizing too much, but I like to be, to have a contrarian take on something. I have to say it in a way that's very intriguing, right? So it's either you're taking a point of view direction, or you're just starting with a story. Last week, last quarter, last month, when I was VP sales, when I was CRO, when I was this, when I was that, okay. And then some kind of a number, some kind of a social proof. So that's one format and direction that really works very, very well.
Yep.
You know what? I'll share my screen, and let's try to do even something else.
If I may add one thing, I think what a lot of people don't solve for in the hook is there's so much noise on LinkedIn or social media in general that, let me allow you, is that there's so much noise that people need to, especially when you don't have an audience, you need to convince someone that you're worth being paid attention to. And so when you just start out by saying, here's what I learned about doing cold calls, it's like, who are you? Like, I don't care what you think about doing cold calls. I've never heard your name. So you need to include some amount of either social proof or proof where you can start out by saying, I did 10,000 cold calls, or my last salary as an AE was $1 million+, or when I was VP sales at Salesforce, or like, give someone whatever they can take so that they're like, oh, this person probably actually has something to say. And so
yeah, exactly. So I'll show you something, like, and this is a classic, like what you said, spot on. The classic mistake is, and by the way, even when you start building audience, okay, and you think that now you have an audience, so I have 20,000 people or 30,000 people, okay, maybe I can get 20,000 of them to like my post, and 2,000 of them, that would be amazing. But then that's not how things work, right? When you get the posts, by the way, the posts that drive real impact and real leads are the ones that get more. Right now, for me, it's more to the 600 and up in terms of likes. Below that, it's still bringing impact, but the really, really big impact, where we're seeing a spike in leads that day, would be these ones, because what's happening is that this is where your impressions really blow up, and you're getting beyond the circles that are used to seeing your posts.
Right.
Okay. So if you write to your audience as if you're famous or something like that, okay, here's my top tips, who are you, right? Then you'll never get beyond your audience, because you're only speaking to your audience.
That makes sense. Yep.
So I have this document that, again, I'm using a VA a lot in some of these things. So
nice.
Just took a lot of my posts at some point and just started organizing.
Number one, 7,000 likes. Crazy.
Yeah. So this is an example of not the social proof, just the take. Okay. Just taking a very contrarian take, something that just, you're just saying what everyone's saying, or no one really thought about it that deep. At that level, to just articulate it in that way, and there's an emotion, and there's there is social proof, right? I'm saying like I worked hundreds of 7-figure deals. That's the idea of why this worked, right? Enterprise sales, like I call the audience directly. Enterprise sales is a different beast. You're thinking about it all wrong. Like if you're in enterprise sales, if you're thinking about going to enterprise sales, like you cannot not read the rest, right? Like it's a very bold. Hey, all of you are thinking about it all wrong, or you, if you know who you are, like you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
And then that's the take, right? And using a little bit of capital letters instead of exclamation marks, which don't work well. It feels like you're screaming, but cap really more emphasizing something.
Well, and I think, I mean, to be fair, you then actually deliver on the goods, right? Like if you would have just come up with this hook and then you would have fed it into ChatGPT and said, give me 5 lessons that make the difference between mid-market and enterprise sales. And you would have included some generic advice of like, you need to do better discovery and you need to include more decision makers in your deal process. It would have just not done well, but you actually have insights. You previously were a CRO and an AE, and you have, decades of sales experience, and you actually worked on your take, and you spent 2 or 3 hours thinking this through and really internalizing and polishing and rewriting, maybe doing some research in between. Like it's actually useful and insightful and differentiated, right? And I think that's what I wanted. Maybe we can take a step back here. Feel free to stop sharing your screen here because I feel like posting 3 times a week, engaging in the comments, all of that is nice and good. Like other people can do that. It's hard to prioritize spending 2 or 3 hours per LinkedIn post, and that would already do a lot of wonder for people to just spend more time on the actual thing that they're publishing and posting. But I know a lot of CEOs who've been posting for a long time. They've been active for 12 months. They're maybe even trying to prioritize writing this, probably not 2 to 3 hours, and it's still just not taking off. There's something intangible about you've hit on some messaging, some sort of positioning, some sort of point of view that's really resonating with people. If you had to consult a CEO or a founder who's building, I don't know, another CRM or another sales engagement tool or another LinkedIn automation product, there's a ton of other deal rooms out there. You're not the only deal room. On what is the positioning? What is the point of view? How are we unique? What can I say that's actually differentiated? Because I think that is a big lever here. That's kind of like the magic. It's like very hard to, like, even I struggle right now to say exactly what I mean, but how would you consult people how to get there? How did you get there? Any tips?
Okay, I'll be very very direct with what I think. I have a pretty, I think, well-built opinion around this because we've now proven that it can scale. Like you don't need followers, okay? You don't need to just try and and post a lot and then because of that you go viral because the algorithm likes you. It just have to be the right posts, okay? And we've recently proved that to be true. Our head of sales, and I'll say what that means and how you can get there. Our head of sales right now started posting. Our chief product officer and founder is going to start posting, and I'm sure it's going to work as well. And her posts, she still has the old habits of, hey, excited about a webinar, or we just went to an event and all of these things that she knows we're talking about it, but she likes still doing it. But if you look at the posts that are the thought leadership posts, the ones that are adding value, they're now at the minimum like 250, 300. She got 1,200 likes. And that's like just like that, out of nowhere.
Yep.
Now, there are two things here. One is a framework. Okay, and a framework means how are you writing? How does the post look? Like I have two main styles that I typically would go for, or one main one, but then I'll sometimes break it. But it's the easiest to write, which is a hook that basically gives you either a very strong contrarian take or polarizing angle to it, and has strong POV and gives you some examples and kind of agitates the pain, and then basically maybe a little bit of social proof, and then tells you, here's what you can expect. Okay. A lot of people don't do this, right? Like, I don't know. It's like you need to think about it a little bit as an article, right? And like they could write the article and work much, much, much more than just the title of the article, right? If anyone, like I've heard that from people who worked in news, then so that's one direction, right? For a hook, and it can be also, we started talking about it. It could be just a social proof. When I was VP sales, I closed. Our team hit 150% of target quarter over quarter. Here are the top things that we did in order to get there. I don't know, right? Like it's like things like that. Like we just scaled to 10 million ARR in 6 months, right? If you have these kind of things, then of course you're like gonna break LinkedIn. So just try to find as many examples of that if you're working as much as possible. The framework also and the content style of working in public and sharing actual things that are happening are really great. So the hook could either be that strong POV, contrarian, polarizing, and everything, or just, hey, here's an experience, here's a story. The story is just insane, it's just very interesting, or it just has this crazy social proof. And now you're breaking down something and you're explaining people exactly everything that they can expect. Now, okay, you got me. It's smart, it's interesting, I want to read. Now, the rest of the post goes into just bullet points, and it goes into a takeaway. Now, LinkedIn loves the bullet point format because it basically, it's practical, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, okay, like ChatGPT would also always answer you in bullet points, right? It's just practical, it's digestible. I can go and action it right now in my business. So that's why bullet points really work very well. And then the last part of that framework, okay, and that's framework 1, right? The last part of that framework is having an ending, a takeaway. And that takeaway, basically what it does, it now takes everything you said, summarizes it, and leaves you with emotion. Okay, it's like the mic drop. It's like people want to comment. Okay, they
Yeah.
like they sign the post, but commenting on a big bullet point that's very deep. Okay, it's hard. You really need to think about something smart to say. But if I told you at the end, stop selling, start offering buying process as a service, okay, top sellers don't sell, they enable buyers to buy. I don't know, like things like that. I have a lot of these in posts that like 50% of the comments are just reiterating or saying what I said, right, and repeating it in some way. And it's the easier. So I'm making it very easy for them to comment, and I'm leaving on that high note of emotion, like the hook. The hook said it all. And by the way, a lot of people will comment on the hook.
Yeah.
So if
They will not read the rest.
they will not read anything, they will comment on the hook. So if the hook is good enough and it has like a strong enough opinion and it stands alone, right? Okay, so all of this is one framework, and then the other framework, which I'll do not as often, and I have a few variations to this one as well. Sometimes I'll do background, sometimes I'll play with it in other ways. But the other one is just more of a storytelling. And the storytelling, I would probably do more one-line, two-line hooks. It's not going to be the same bulky and then bullet points. Where I'll use storytelling is if I have something that is really kind of like a story, okay, or a rant, right? I'm going on I really want to preach, right? Like I want to go and say something that I'm very, very emotional about, or that that I'm very passionate about. So I'll use that, but to write these is much, much, much harder. Because
Right.
like the entire post needs to keep pulling you in, like it needs to pull you in and pull you in. That one is much harder to write. So I think
Let me
this is
post a link here to one post that I think recently that you did that kind of follows this framework if people want to click on it and take a look.
yeah. So this one the hook wasn't good. This should have done much, much, much better. I really did much better. I think that the content itself.
Only
Was
290 likes.
Yeah, I think that yeah, like I'll do a lot of times that after analysis. Yeah, I know what like I will probably repurpose this in 6 months from now or more and just do a different tool, and I'm sure it will do better.
If I were to, I think there is so much content out there. You're competing for literally tens of thousands of LinkedIn posts every single day. No one cares about you. So what are you going to say that makes it worthwhile for thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people if you want your post to go live, to go viral, to pay attention to? And I think there's almost kind of like two tracks. And I think you have both going for you. And the one I would say is thought leadership. The other one I would say is unique point of view. So thought leadership is like, everyone wants to be a thought leader. Very few people are actually thought leaders. And so we work with a customer, for example. He's CEO of a cybersecurity company. He was previously the CIO at Microsoft and VMware. There's not a lot of people who were previously the CIO at Microsoft.
Yeah.
He literally worked with Bill Gates.
Mm.
So that makes it very easy to create content that is just very unique, that has a level of insight and depth and context that 99.999% of people will never get to. Right. So and I think you have that going for you because obviously you have 2 decades in sales. You actually moved from AE up to CRO. So you held very senior decisions towards the end. So you're not just pontificating about sales, you have real enterprise sales experience under the hood. That's decades. The second one is kind of the strong point of view, which is, I think that's where Chris Walker kind of fell into initially, which is like you say something. For him, it was kind of like this idea of dark social, which is just, it somehow just resonates. It somehow just catches on like wildfire, where something about it is just, it's different, it's unique, but it also makes sense. You can articulate it well and it gives people an aha moment. I think that is very, very difficult to get to. And you kind of just need to experiment, throw stuff against the wall, and then kind of people tell you like, oh, damn, that really resonates. It's kind of like product market fit. And I think you found that too with this whole like, buying as a process. You don't sell, you enable the buying process. And I think that kind of encapsulates your point of view and what Align does, that just somehow caught on, it somehow resonates. And so you got both going on, I think, and that's kind of given you a superpower. But I think like if it were so easy that you can just post 3 times a week and reply to a couple comments and put some numbers into your hook and suddenly you'll go viral like Galaga, then everyone would be doing it. And I think that's the kind of like non-fakeable thing that you have going for you. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with this, but this is kind of.
Yeah, I think it's something that can be copied. It's not easy, but it can. Yes, not maybe everyone will have. I don't have the most impressive experience. It's okay. Like they're like the one like I haven't met Bill Gates.
Yeah.
So I think right there are a lot of crazier examples. Like even our head of sales, like she has, if you look at her CVs, like it's all 200%, 250%, was the first AE to close $1 million quarter and then did it again at Samsara. She had like these crazy things, and I'm all the time telling her, this is a hook, this is a hook, this is a hook, all this. So I'll tell you what, we touched framework. That's
Yeah.
one people
Yeah.
just don't figure out and learn what's like a good writing framework and maintain it. Two, okay, I think people are not going to their expertise, okay, and are not nailing the what you write about. I think that they're trying to break too much, either to sell. Like everyone has expertise in something, okay. So I like when I spoke with a lot of other CEOs, I all the time told them like, forget about the how to connect everything. Like a lot of them feel like I don't have the founder market fit like you have,
Uh-huh.
right? Where you did the role of your ICP.
Yep.
I tell them, okay, what are you expert in? Okay, and what do you have to say that's extremely interesting about your journey? Just start there. Okay, start there, and then worry about connecting the dots later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Start with where you can just teach at $1,000 an hour consulting level, and then worry about everything else later. Just build impressions, right? Build strength and connection and trust, and you will slowly figure it out. Okay, that's one thing. And then the second thing, as you do that, you can start thinking about your narrative. Okay, what do you have to say? And you start, and that's what we have. But every company can go and think. It took me a lot of time, and LinkedIn was that playground. That was the testing ground, right,
Yeah.
for building our narrative. So once you have that, you can start figuring out what are your content pillars, what are you writing about that's going to be even more interesting and more tie strongly into your brand, and then you can find something that even works better. But right now, here's a great example, right? With our head of sales, she's just posts about things right now that we talk about. Like she had a post a few days ago about how
What's her name again? I've seen her post, but
Meredith Chandler. So the post was, we had a conversation and everything about how right now we're getting to the end of quarter, and really every rep should know at this point, like how they get to the number. They should have all of their math for this quarter, all of their math already starting to get built for next quarter. And then we talked about, the best reps are not the ones that are waiting, right? They're the CEOs of their business, and they have that level of accountability, and they're planning their quarter ahead, and they're thinking about it, and they're and they're doing the numbers. The forecast is not for the manager, the forecast is for them. So that's like a thing that she's right now thinking about and driving right now in the team. So that turned into a post, right?
Yep.
So she just takes things from her day to day, and it's like the things that you're coming across, right? So she's building trust and everything. She hasn't yet used a single CTA in her post, but already we were at an event together, and people walked to us and start, "Hey, I love seeing both of your posts. I've
I love
been
it.
following you," right? So she's starting to get recognized already, and it's starting to add value.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I
there's
put a link in there, guys, if you want to check it out. I think you can kind of infer what Gal is teaching here by just looking what she talks about and how. This leads me to another question. Also, we have 11 minutes left, guys. So if you have any specific questions for Gal, put them in the chat now, and I'll try to, go through them. If you're talking to a CEO and they're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I've been following your journey. I think it's super cool. I obviously see the impact that it's having on your business. I want to do this too." What are the things that you would look at, or what are the things you would have to see for you to be like, "Oh my God, you need to absolutely do this tomorrow," versus what are some things if you see them you'd be like, "No, don't do this."
I would say for right now, if you have a lot of fires, a lot of balls in your hands, and you're juggling a lot of things, then just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need a good momentum, clear mind, to prioritize something like this. That's one. Secondly, if your audience really is, I don't know, construction or something that maybe is less on LinkedIn. I don't know what would be less. I don't know. I don't have a lot of examples. Maybe that's not a good
Construction
idea.
site supervisors are probably not the easiest. Nurses probably not the easiest to reach on LinkedIn, but a lot of people now reachable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what else?
I mean, that's a pretty short list, right? It's just like you got to be able to prioritize it on and your bio needs to be on LinkedIn. Other than that, like you should go do it.
Yeah.
Eliran asked, who are the people you enjoy following on LinkedIn? Who inspires you?
I follow Jen Allen.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, like not a lot recently to say.
Gal is in his own world, guys. He's
I used to get
focused.
a ton of inspiration from Chris Walker,
Yep.
Adam, of course.
Yep.
I think I love Jen Allen in general. I think there's something about her personality that comes out in her posts and the quality of writing. I used to follow a lot Nate Nastrala. She's doing a good job. He's doing a good job. Yeah, I think these are
There you go.
all a lot of people, but yeah.
I love it. There was one question. Camry asked, what are some questions that would spark interest on LinkedIn for a CEO of a startup? I'm not sure I understand the question, Camry. Do you know what she's talking about, Gal, or what she might mean? Or he? I'm Not sure. Feel free to clarify that question. I'm not sure I get the question. Derek said, what has you the most excited for the second half of 2020, personal or company related?
Yeah, we're just gonna the product is just gonna be so different. Like, yeah, everything that we're gonna release, I think, starting in a month from now or so, but the biggest things are gonna come in a few months from now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's I would say one thing. And secondly, related to our topic on marketing, we're now really leveling up. So we're about to hire 4 people right now at once, and there's so many ideas that I just we've been sitting on for so long, and I just can't wait to get out there. There's also like some really big talent that's going to come into marketing. I can't say yet who.
Mm.
Uh, it really changed everything under our current head of marketing. Yeah, so really a lot on the things that we're going to do next on the marketing front and product.
Brian asked, which is kind of what we talked about, but he said we sell into oil and gas, which is more niche. So I'm trying to understand if it still makes sense to invest heavily in this channel, meaning LinkedIn, for our founder, given this market. Any insight on that or opinion?
Yeah, I would check LinkedIn Sales Navigator or if there's any other ways to check
Yep.
and see if that audience is there. Yeah.
Yep. I think
By
it,
the way, a
yeah.
great way to try to find existing creators, right, in that space. That's what I would do actually. I would go and try to see, okay, who's writing about this? I think that there are some tools. I think maybe Clio, Kleo, you could maybe search for the topics and see like who are the people, the thought leaders that are.
Yeah, there's a couple Triggerfight or something like this. I
Yeah,
think SendSpark has something. Has no, it's not SendSpark. Sorry, SparkToro. Scratch
yeah,
that. SparkToro has some of this. Yeah, there's ways to do this. It
yeah,
mostly works with big niches, though.
yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask about CTAs. Now, one of the things that you do, which kind of goes against the best practice that like most of the gurus tell you that you should never do on LinkedIn, is to have a CTA and to include a link in your post, and you do it in almost every post. You or maybe every second post you have like a PS. We build a line to do this. You can try it here with a link. You know, Tell me about that. Maybe break some common beliefs here of people who think they should never do this.
The CTAs in the posts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't do this at the beginning. So the CTAs basically, they're kind of tying the way that I do it, they try to tie a pain, a problem, right? That I just spoke about in the post. And we're fortunate that Align solves a lot of problems on the sales execution, on the entire sales process and strategic elements. Sales leaders are worried about like almost, we can easily tie to a lot of things, to team selling, to like creating better buyer experience, to a lot of things. So I would basically doing the PS align. We built a line in order to solve this problem in some way. I would phrase it in that way,
Yeah.
include a little bit of social proof, and then drop a link right there. So I think the where I took it from is from a lot of creators do sign up for by the way or
Hmm.
PS letter thing, right? So I am, by the way, that's one of the next things. I think any day now, if not, like we've been delaying this for a long time. There's a newsletter coming.
Hmm. Are
Yeah,
you writing it?
yeah. It's a repurposing my own a lot
Mhm.
of the posts, moving them to a long format. I have someone that's helping there a little bit with editing and stuff, but
Hmm.
yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to newsletter. So I don't know if I'll do newsletters from LinkedIn a lot. Still need to think about it. But basically that's what I do. I just tie it into the post and get people to sign up.
Yeah.
I think it's easier, definitely easy, right, with a freemium product or free trial with any PLG product. But you can just send people to your website, right? So now in terms of that impacting the post, I don't think anyone can know how much it impacts. Like, how do you test it? Because there's no A/B testing has to have, right, the
Yeah.
exact same, all of the ingredients have to be the same. And it's enough that you even repurpose the post. And when you repurpose it next time, something at the beginning won't work well because some countries are on vacation and you won't get a lot of engagement at the beginning and the post won't work well. There's so many things.
Yeah.
Uh, but I do know that all of these posts that did 2,000, 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 likes, 7,000, 6,000 likes, all of them included CTAs.
So the data is at least clear that it's not preventing you from going viral, even if it maybe impacts your
Not
reach a little
preventing
bit.
you, but I maybe get penalized by 20%, 30%. I don't know by how much. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But I mean, it's also what goal do you have, right? Like maybe your reach is 20% lower, but if you would put it in the comment underneath, you would probably get overall fewer signups, even with the additional reach, because you just have a massive drop off.
Yeah.
All right, we have 2 minutes left here, Gal.
Trying to
What's like,
say, like, you don't want to go and start, you don't want to just treat it as a let's get signups, let's get some
yeah, yeah,
things. Try to balance it. Because you want to build trust, you want to just give value. People will go and they'll check you out. They can follow you now for 10 posts, and then if you only in one of them, you'll drop the link, that one time will just work much, much better.
yep,
So it's not that you'll get more effectiveness from this method if you'll do it on every post, because
yep.
people are following you through multiple posts.
All right, last question, Gal. What's like next for your LinkedIn? Are you guys just gonna chip away at the 3 posts per week, or are you, well, you said the newsletter, anything else? You gonna do video on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm probably going to do video a little bit at some point. I just don't think that it's going to drive more for performance of the post.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen and researched, I just think yes, it's going to resonate more with people, but it's also more work. It's like for me going from 3 to 4 posts, I think it's going to be pretty much the same.
Mm.
That's why I'm not that excited to jump at that. Next thing is really newsletter, but we might do anyway some live series or not live. Like there's going to be something I think
Yeah,
uh, in the video format.
makes sense. All right, right on time, Gal. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me, Finn. It was great.